So Radio Income, I am so excited to bring on my next guest. Let's say hello to Jared Harris. Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Really good, thank you. I've got to say, I mean, you're probably hearing this quite a lot at the moment, but Chernobyl is one of the most emotional, eye-opening, educational, mesmerizing pieces of TV I've ever watched in my life. I mean, I saw it on screen, I watched it, and I was just gripped like the entire nation. So what I wanted to ask you is, when you first kind of read the scripts for the show, did you know you were going to be part of something special?
I had the same reaction when I read the scripts. I was gripped by it. It was very powerful. It was really moving. Actors have a very good sense of whether or not about material, and we talked to each other about material, and this was very quickly something that part of our conversations. You'd talk to people, and they would say, "Have you read this? It's really good. You've got to get seen on it. You have to get in there." So I knew it was good material. You can't know what the public mind is going to be a year and a half from now, so
yeah,
you hope that everything that you do is going to work, and for that everyone has to hit their A game in terms of all the different departments, and this definitely happened on that one. And I don't know how many times I've been involved in something where even the sound design is being called out by reviewers and critics as having an exceptional contribution to the feel and atmosphere of a story, and the costume and makeup. And I mean, obviously those things are important, but in this particular case, they actually had a significant role in the storytelling arc of the story. So, yeah, it's been it's been a surprise in that sense, but it's been a good surprise.
I mean, for me, I wasn't born when the Chernobyl disaster happened. So for me, and I know from a lot of my friends, people that I've spoke to, when we watched it, it was just such an educational piece, because it kind of opens your eyes to that this happened. And a lot of us didn't know the full facts, and the fact there was a lot of kind of corruption about it.
I had the same feeling. I was alive at the time, and I remember it happening, and I remember a lot of some accurate story reporting, and then others, people make stuff up when they don't get all the facts, So, but I did not know the extent of it. I did not know how close we came to a continent-wide catastrophe. Yeah. And of course, you don't know the untold story of heroism of the first responders, and then the people who come in after that, and they're essentially sacrificing themselves to save lives of people who will never know of them.
I mean, for you as an actor, you've appeared in so many different things. But would you say this recording took over your heart a little bit? Because the majority of characters are based on real people. The events are very real. So was there any time filming you kind of felt emotional, more so than you would when you've been filming other shows?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, no. You to be successful in a role, you've got to get inside it, and you have to empathize with the predicaments of the characters, and they have to be real to you. So in that sense, you have to feel their circumstances and their jeopardy. I think when you're playing somebody who's real, or in a story that's real, and there are people alive who are still connected to it, I think you have an obligation to tell an authentic version of their story. And of course, that means that there's obviously dramatization involved and a certain amount of fictionalization involved, but you are required to give an authentic rendering of their story.
And I mean, for you played the character of Valery Legasov, and he was a physicist, and he kind of wanted to do his best to help prevent this disaster from getting worse than it already was. And he was a very honest man. That's the feel we got from the show. He always wanted to tell the truth and do things the right way. So when you kind of done your own research into Legasov, did you kind of feel a duty to make sure that his story was told the right way and it was accurate?
Yeah, but, I didn't have concerns because Greg had already taken care of that,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have gotten involved if I thought that it was taking liberties, and I've been offered things in the past where it's telling a story about somebody or a piece of history that's real, and you just think, well, this isn't, I'm not going to I'm not going to promote this. I'm not going to be a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
So Craig had already taken care of all of that, and that was part of his dedication. He did a deep, deep dive into the research. He understood the circumstances of it, and he wrapped his mind around an incredibly complex story and made decisions about where he was going to start in that story and whose stories he was going to involve in it, you know. If you think about it, episode 4, it goes off on this, not a tangent, but it goes off on this storyline where he's dealing with the liquidators, and that would have been a hard sell on probably under any other studio to go and say, well, I'm going to devote a third to a half of this episode in talking, exploring a character we've never met before, we're never going to see again, you know. And he had to figure out how to represent what this 2-year experience was over 5 hours. So, and I felt that he honoured those stories. So, a lot of those concerns had already been addressed by Craig. And you know, my research into Legasov, if you've seen the whole thing, in episode 5, the head of the KGB says essentially that they're going to erase him from history, and they really were successful in doing that. There is not a lot of information on him, and even if you read books about the event written by Western authors, not many mention him.
I mean, for me personally, the bit that really kind of tugged on my heartstrings was the line where the KGB said to him, your legacy and your history will now be someone else's legacy and someone else's history. Yeah. And you think this man gave so much dedication. All he ever wanted to do was save lives and tell the truth. And he was penalized for being a good person. That's what I found really heart-wrenching actually watching the show, is to see someone who I would consider a legend in what he did getting penalized for just being a nice, law-abiding human being.
Yeah, I mean, on that front, and it's a slightly different tangent, but isn't that always the fate of whistleblowers?
No, that is. And it's a sad reality.
They aren't treated well. They do a service, and they know that they're going to have their reputations destroyed if they step forward and tell the truth, and they do at great sacrifice. But that seems, for some reason, to be the fate of whistleblowers. Yeah, I think in that sense, it's very relatable, isn't it? I mean, it rings true.
That's also credit to your acting, because I really feel as an audience, you took us on that journey with the character, and you just made people kind of open their hearts to the characters. I think you played the role absolutely fantastically, and that's hence why, I mean, some of the feedback, and like you've said, it's one of the highest rated shows of all time on IMDb. You've had positive responses. There's loads of talks that this show does indeed deserve awards. So did you ever anticipate you would get such a response from the public like you have? No,
I mean, everything you do, you hope it's gonna be well received, you know. But you can't expect it. You can't think that it will happen. I think, I mean, you hope that it's going to be well received by the people who see it. I think what's happened in this case is it's resonating in so many different ways with people, and it is the right story at the right time, if you like, and you can never plan that. And I mean, it is a surprise, but it's a happy surprise in that sense. And certainly a lot of those themes are in the DNA of the story. You know, first and foremost, it's a story about what happened to these people, but you don't have to stretch it very far to see that there are parallels to things that are going on right now. And I think that resonance is what's causing people to respond to it, because they can see how it's relating to issues that people are seeing play out in real time right now.
And what I would love to know, because I don't actually know myself, was where was the majority of this filmed? Because that's another part, the locations. It looks so real when you look online of the actual place. Everything just looks so real, so good. It looks good on camera. So where was the majority of it filmed?
It was filmed in primarily in Vilnius, which is in Lithuania. We shot for 1 week in Kiev, and we shot for another week at a nuclear power plant called Ignalina. Now, Lithuania was part of the Soviet Union, and a lot of the look of the place was available to the filmmakers because it's part of the Soviet Union, and although it's now part of the EU, and there's been funds to sort of reconstruct the place, there's still a lot of buildings that are sort of Soviet hangover buildings. But I mean, again, you have to give credit to the designers, the production designers, because they went out and they did all the research, found all the right looks, made sure that everything felt authentic. Again, that was very much part of what Craig and Johan were determined to make sure, was that it felt authentic and it didn't feel sensationalized. It wasn't going to be a sort of, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not knocking Hollywood, but I mean, they didn't want it to feel like a Hollywoodized version of it. They wanted it to have a European feel to it, if you like. So, but the production the designer Luke did an amazing job at making sure that the options that he had were felt very authentic, and we had some sets, but we were lucky in that there was a lot available, a lot of sort of real stuff still available to us in Lithuania and in Kiev. All the Moscow exteriors were done in Kiev, and when we went to Ignalina, all the Chernobyl power plant exteriors were done at Ignalina because it is the exact same model RBMK reactor as the Chernobyl reactor.
Wow, okay. So much detail went into this, making it as close to the actual thing as possible. So you can see that just from watching it.
And they had advisors who would talk to us about certain customs, Soviet customs, living under that regime, and down to not just clothes that we wore. They had one of the costume assistants worked in one of the Soviet factories making clothes, and she would make sure that the material felt right, because it wasn't great material. It was fairly thick material that didn't form to your body. It just hung on you like a tent, So they would make sure that it looked bad in the most authentic way, if you like, and likewise across the board, they made sure that they had people there who were making sure that it felt real to people who had lived under those circumstances.
And I've got to say, I mean, for you as an actor, you've done some incredible things, of course, starring in the series Mad Men. But would you say for you this is one of your all-time career highlights, just because it was so different, and it's something that will always, I guess, that you will always remember, and it's always going to be talked about?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Obviously, when you get something that is being responded to in this sort of way, then yes. I mean, it's up there, obviously, with The Crown and with Mad Men and with The Terror. In terms of the television that I've done, it's absolutely right up there with all of that.
I know this is a little bit off topic, but it's just something that I wanted to know personally. I mean, obviously, acting is very much in your genes. You come from an acting background with your family.
Yeah.
So when you grew up, did you was that something you knew that you always wanted to be, was an actor, or was there something else that was kind of in the pipeline?
No, I was very shy when I was young. I studied so I could get out of school, and so I think they thought that I was interested in academia. And as a middle child, I was really argumentative, so they thought, maybe I'd be a good lawyer.
Okay, that's completely different. But I'm glad you did get into acting, because we've got to witness you in a lot of great shows. So yeah, I think you've done well going with the acting route rather than a lawyer.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what's next for you now? Do you have any upcoming projects that you can tell us about that you're currently working on?
I'm not signed on to do anything yet. Possibly I'm going to be doing a movie with my elder brother, but hopefully that's going to happen. I have a show on Amazon that's going to come out at the end of August called Carnival Row, and I just finished I did a few a small part on the new Spider-Man movie, Morbius.
Wow.
Spider-Man spin-off. It's similar to the sort of thing that they did with Venom. It's a super villain character in that world. I'm not playing that character, but yeah. So I did a couple of weeks on that.
I mean, you just said there that, about working on a film with your brother. Have you ever worked with a family member before?
I did. I worked on his first movie. It was my first movie called The Rachel Papers. We worked on that together.
And what's it like when you work with a family member? Is it kind of a surreal experience? Is it? Because I mean,
it was a long time ago.
Okay.
I mean, my memory of it is that we know each other really well, so there's a shorthand, and you can sort of cut through any kind of bullshit as well. And you also know immediately whether somebody's having a good day or a bad day because you know all each other's signs, and then you're able to.
Well, Jared, I've got to say a massive thank you for giving me your time today, and I really think the way you played the character in Chernobyl is one of the big reasons it's such a success, because I feel like you did take the audience on the journey. And for me personally, I've watched the series twice now, and it was just one of the most educational and eye-opening pieces I've ever watched, and I've got the same feedback from a lot of other people. So I think what you've done with the role was just incredible. Thank you
very, very much, Lewis. That's really, really kind of you, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time. It's been an absolute honour for me to get you on the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your upcoming projects.
Same here. Come out. That's all the plus. Okay. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.